How's it going, everyone? I am Dylan. This is All You Can Board, and I said board really weird there. So I've done this video before, but I am starting to play a lot of board games again. For a while, there was a lot of months where I seemed to only play a few, especially only a few new ones, because I was really busy at my full-time job. For those wondering, this was last summer especially. But so far this year and even in December, I played a lot of board games. And so I really wanted to get back into this because I played a lot last month. And as I was looking through all my plays, I've started to track them. I just realized how many good games I played. And so this video is less about like these games as they stack up against each other, how I'd rank them. I'm basing this off the plays I had of these board games specifically. So just because you see one board game ranked ahead of another one doesn't mean I like that board game more. It means I liked the plays I had of it or the play I had of it this last month than other board games on the list. So don't take this as, you know, too much of a, oh, this is where I'd expect these games to rank for Dylan. They could change, but these plays, this is how I ranked them. There was a lot to choose from. I had to cut out a bunch of really good ones I wanted to include because I wanted to limit this to 10. We're gonna start at 10 and go through one, and this is of course for January 2024, top 10 games I played. Number 10 is a game I played. I've only played this myself on Board Game Arena, but we have the physical version. I just haven't played it in person yet, and that is a game called Akropolis. So man, this box is just coming right apart. Every time I stand up a board game, I never know if it's just gonna pop right off the back. So this is Akropolis. Akropolis is a really, really interesting tile laying game. And tile placement games, they're a dime a dozen, and sometimes hard to do things that are unique. And in many ways, the game doesn't do a lot that's unique, but combined together, it just feels unique. So you're placing these three-sided hex tiles you're creating a board for yourself. Everyone's creating their own sort of board. The big thing with this game is that you can place them on top of each other as well. And when you place on top of the base of white color that can appear on these tiles, you're gonna gain these little cubes. I'm forgetting what they're called. And the cubes can be used to pay to buy tiles that are not free. So there's gonna be a list of tiles in the market you can buy. One is gonna be free, and then they're gonna increase in value from like 1, 2, and 3 cubes. You can afford those by placing on top of the base white color to gain some of these cubes that you can then spend. The way the game scores and the way you gain points is similar in style to King Domino if you've played, where there's going to be a bunch of different colors that can pop up. I think it's like yellow, purple, green, red, blue, and maybe there's one more that I'm forgetting. I don't know if I said green. I think I did say green. And all of these are going to score in different ways, but in general, you want to try to get the ones out that have the stars on them, and it's going to be the stars that sort of multiply how much they score for. And then they'll have other conditions. The red ones have to be on the outer border of your civilization, your city that you're creating. The purple ones have to be completely enclosed. I think it's the yellow ones that they can't be touching those are the markets. They can't be touching other markets. They have to all be separated. But you also want to get these stars out to be able to actually multiply and score for them. So there's a lot you're thinking about. It's a really fun puzzle to kind of solve. It's one of those games where everyone's sort of doing their own thing, but the player interaction comes from who's buying stuff first in the market. But I've just had a ton of fun playing this on Board Game Arena. I'm excited to play the physical version more, and I'm just excited to play different player counts. It's a game that I was late to in terms of Carlo and Braden played it before me. Braden included it pretty high on his top 50 board games of all time this year. That kind of got me even more intrigued, and I'm just really loving my plays of it. So that is Akropolis, the number 10 board game I played last month. Oof, this one's gonna completely fall apart. All right, number 9, a game we've talked about a little bit here on the channel in the last little bit. It's not brand new, but definitely newer to us. We've had it for a while, but it took me a while to get it to the table. I've been playing the physical version. I've played this on Board Game Arena as well, and that is Earth. So Earth, we actually just recently covered in an Own It, Play It, Skip It. I won't spoil where it landed, but I will kind of spoil by saying I really like it. So Earth is a kind of complex game, but not really when you get the hang of it, where you're building a tableau of up to 16 cards, 4x4, and these cards are going to have a bunch of different abilities on them that are featured in four different colors. It's green, red, yellow, and blue. Yes, the green, red, yellow, and blue. Each one is going to correspond to an action you can take on your turn. So green is to plant cards into your tableau. You can plant up to 2 cards. Red is to compost, and you can get more soil. Soil is what you use to spend to plant cards. I think blue is water, if I'm not mistaken, where you're going to be adding these little sprout cubes onto cards you already have in your tableau. And I forget what yellow is, but it's associated with the growth of different trees and canopies that go onto another spot on your tableau. cards. So everything really revolves around your tableau, but you're interacting with it in different ways. All these things generally score you 1 point for each of them that you have, but you're using some to get others. It's a really, really addictive game. I think Carlo's the one who said that, and it's the best way I've heard it described. I get really addicted to playing Earth because there's so many different strategies and there's so many different cards that can come up. And even though the variety in the cards, I love it if there was even more variety and more things that kind of change rules of the game. It's really fun to kind of see what you're given in your hand and find a way to make it work, or kind of allow that to dictate your strategy and change how you play. And then there's a bunch of different scoring objectives. There's ones that you have to get to first to get more points. There's ones that are just endgame scoring that are public objectives. There's a private objective. You start the game with different cards already in play that dictate your hand size and different abilities you start with. There's just a lot going on that is really, really fun. This is on Board Game Arena if you wanted to try it there. The physical version, though, is very, very fun to play with because of all the different components, and the quality on them is really good, at least in the version we have. So that is Earth. I've really enjoyed my plays of it. Number 9, and honestly could have slotted in higher, but I just played so many good games this last month. So number 9, Earth. All right, number 8. Another game I only have 4 games here physically, and this list starts with 3 of the 4 that I have. And this is one that I have talked about. It's not brand new. I've actually played it a bunch. It was on my top 50 for the first time this year, and it's a spiritual successor to a board game called Photosynthesis, and this is Evergreen. So Evergreen is, like I said, a follow-up to Photosynthesis, but with a different style of playing. Photosynthesis was a game that you all were competing on the same board in the middle of the table. Evergreen, everyone has their own player board. You are going to be planting sprouts that are going to grow into small trees, that are going to grow into big trees in one of, I think it's 6 different biomes. The way you know which biome you're playing into is that you're doing card drafting. And so there's going to be a group of cards on the table that's different amount per, one more than whatever your player count is. So if you're playing with 2 players, it's going to be 3 cards there. You're going to be drafting a card back and forth. That card, whatever biome's on it, is where you're going to take an action, and you're going to do things like plant sprouts, grow trees. But they also have a special ability in the bottom right corner that's going to give you a bonus action. Every time you take a bonus action, you increase the power of that bonus action on the spot on your board, and so you get more and more powerful in these bonus actions where you can do more with them. Instead of just placing 1 additional growth of a tree, you might get 2 or 3 depending on how you've boosted that bonus action. At the same time, whichever card doesn't get drafted is going to go into this, I forget the name of all these terms, but it's going to go into this layout of cards of all the different biomes, and how many suns are on them is how many points each biome is going to be worth, multiplied by how many of the tallest tree you have. So even though you might be doing really good in one biome, if you haven't been putting a lot of cards with sun icons of that biome into the reserve that's there for everybody, then you're actually not going to score anything for it. And there's ways to put skulls there to cancel out some for scoring. So you're both dictating what things will actually score for at the end of the game, but you're also scoring points as you go along, depending on how the sun shines on, not the actual sun, the sun in the game. There's a little sun token. Depending on which side of the board it's on, it's going to shine and cast shadows. Your trees will cast shadows, and things that are in shadows don't score light points. If they get hit by the sun, they do score points. So lots of really cool stuff going on with Evergreen, and I just find that the more I play, the better I get at the strategy of the game, and the more enjoyable the game becomes. It's one of those games that it's gotten better for me every time I've played it so far. I haven't reached that peak if I'm going to reach it at some point. It just keeps getting better, and it's because there's so much to figure out. The game's different every time. I'm going after certain bonus powers at every game. You have to create a big grouping of trees to create whoever has the biggest forest at the end of each round is going to score, everyone scores for their biggest forest. You can get more points for it. So there's a lot to think about. There's just a lot of ways to get points, and there's a lot of ways to you can't do it all, right? It's one of those games you can't do it all, and you also cannot always maximize things the way you'd want. So what's the best you can do, and what's the strategy you can go with that's going to get you the most points? Tons of fun. The components are really, really fun to play with, and this is on BGA now, so I'm getting my fix, even though I will always prefer the physical version because of the components and the dual layer player boards. It is nice to be able to play it more accessibly on Board Game Arena and just play it more often, especially for a game that improves for me every play and has more strategy the more I play. So that is Evergreen, my number 8. All right, number 7, a game that I don't own the physical copy of, but I've been really enjoying my digital plays of it so far. But I really, really want to buy the physical version. That is Knarr. Essentially what you're doing in this game is you're going to have a hand of 3 cards that are these Vikings that come in one of, I think it's 5 different colors. It might be 6, but I think it's 5. and you have to play one to your sort of tableau that you're building. And the tableau is just every color gets its own line of cards that you're adding to as you go. So all your reds go together, all your purples go together, etc. Every time you add a card to your line of colors, they're going to have these icons in the top right, and you're going to activate the icon for everything of that color when you place it. So if you have a lot of reds, every time you place a red, you're getting way more than if you only have one yellow and you place a yellow. You are then going to be using different colors that you have, different Vikings that you've collected, to buy these. My terminology is just awful. You're buying these town cards, I think they are. Town cards or location cards. I think it's location cards. And you're adding those to the top of your player board, and you are going to then be using this. I'm laughing to myself because I never come prepared with the actual terminology for the different icons and like tokens that are in the game. When I play board games, for those who don't, this is an aside. When I play board games, I often don't use the proper terminology. I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to use this red one. I'm going to activate this green thing instead of saying I'm activating the parks or I'm using the wood or whatever. I'll just be like, oh, the brown cubes or whatever. So it's really tough for me to know the terminology for all these things. But essentially, you have this one type of token that will activate your bonuses, and every location has bonuses in column 1, 2, or 3. It's called trading. When you, I know that one, when you were going to activate one of these columns. If you trade up to you have 3 of the tokens, you can trade 3, and you can activate all 3 of your columns because you traded 3. If you only trade 1, you can only activate the first column. Every one of these location cards you're adding has those 3 columns, but doesn't have bonuses in all the columns. So you're having to try to distribute your bonuses into the 3 different columns that are possible. Keeping in mind how often you're going to be trading and which columns you're going to be activating, the most often. So you have to trade in your Vikings of the different colors when you're doing this. So it's this kind of push and pull of I'm collecting these Vikings and they're getting me all these bonuses when I play them, but then I have to discard them and use them to be able to get these locations so I can get more bonuses. And the reason there's this sort of pressure to do that is that it's a race game. So I think it's the first one to, is it 80 points? I think it's 80 points. No, it's not 80 points. I think it's, I can't remember. I came very unprepared for all the terminology in Knarr, but it's a race game too. Whatever the point total is, it might be, I'm mixing up because we played another game recently that it was called After Us that has erased 80 points, and I think I'm confusing it with that. I think it might be like 30 or 40 points. But essentially you're racing to a point total, and so as soon as you see your opponents getting a certain amount of points, the pressure's on you to find ways to get more points. And you can do that by a reputation track, by getting more cards of colors that have the point bonus icon and then playing more of that color to just get the points, or using your location cards and then trading and getting the points that are in the categories or in the different columns. So it's really thinky. There's a lot of ways to gather points. You have to try to find a way to do it the most efficiently. You have to balance all the different actions you're taking in the game, and I've just found it to be a really satisfying puzzle to figure out every time I play. So really enjoying Knarr. It's my number 7, and I'm hopefully going to be playing a lot more of it and be getting the physical version for myself soon, because I could see this being one that hits the table really frequently for me. All right. Number 6, another game that I don't have the physical version of here. Oh, sorry, I have the physical version of a version of it, but not the original, and that is Terra Mystica. So you have heard me talk about Terra Mystica's new version, which is Age of Innovation. I do have that. It's up on, I'm looking at it right now over here on the shelf. That I've played the physical version of a couple times, and I'm loving it. That was actually the first introduction I ever had to Terra Mystica. After I played the physical version of this, I decided to go onto Board Game Arena and play the original Terra Mystica because I'd never played it before. And I've played a bunch of Terra Mystica, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And so I still think long-term Age of Innovation is going to be my preferred version because of all the flexibility and variability in the setup. It just creates, I feel like every game of Age of Innovation is going to feel wildly different, whereas a lot of my games of Terra Mystica are feeling kind of samey outside of the scoring objectives. But that being said, Terra Mystica's different faction powers and the changes to the faction, the way each faction is different, I'm finding so satisfying. Every faction has an identity, every faction has a unique ability, has different income spots on their boards, different costs for the things that they're building. I am horrible at Terra Mystica so far, the original. I've lost every game I've played, some drastically, and yet I keep wanting to come back because I'm seeing the hook. I'm understanding it. I'm really enjoying it, and it's one that I want to get better at. I want to get good at it. I'm not a competitive board gamer. I think I've brought this up in other videos. I really often don't care about winning, and I don't care about trying to get the best score possible. But there are certain exceptions to that. There are certain games that just hook me in a way where I do want to play them competitively. And Castles of Burgundy is one that often comes up for me when I'm talking about games like that. Patchwork has been another one. Azul's been another one. I could see Terra Mystica being that for me as well on a heavier level once I play enough that I'm actually able to win a game, because the closest I've got is I finished second in a 4-player game, and I don't even think I was close to first in that one. So loving Terra Mystica. If you haven't checked it out, I won't get into all the explanation of the rules. It's been out for a while, and it's a little bit hard to try to explain all the rules, but you're essentially just terraforming land to be able to build different buildings, to meet certain round scoring conditions to get more points, and then using your faction's unique powers and asymmetrical abilities to find ways to, get more points and also try to block your opponents from doing different things. So really fun game, really hard to be good at, especially when you're playing with people who have played a lot of it, but I'm hooked, and I'm going to be playing a bunch more of Terra Mystica. That was number 6. Number 5 is, do I even have number? Yeah, number 5 is a game that we have the physical version of, and we've also been playing it on Board Game Arena, so this is one we have physical and digital, and that is Next Station London. This is a flip and write game that I did not have many expectations going into. There's a lot of games in the flip and write space, the roll and write space, and so it's one that I'm never overly excited when I'm playing something new. I'm hopeful that it's going to be something that hooks me as much as, that's pretty clever and whatnot, but I just don't have that expectation going in anymore. Next Station London caught me by surprise. I am loving this game. So and I should mention, it's called Next Station London because there's also Next Station Tokyo, which we have as well, and we're going to be covering both games on the channel soon. And then I believe there's an announcement that Braden sent me that there's now Next Station Paris coming out as well. So you're probably going to see a few in this line of games, and it's good to know that Next Station London 2 is very different than Next Station Tokyo, but in the same framework as the other one. So they're finding good ways to keep them fresh between the versions. But that being said, you're going to have 4 different colors of pencils, and you're going to be taking a new pencil in each of the 4 rounds. You're going to use each of the colors over the course of the game, and you're focusing on a different colored subway line, train line, depending on which colored pencil you're using. So if you're using the pink pencil, you're focusing on the pink train line. And you're having to go into a bunch of different territories, zones on your map, and your points are going to be multiplied for that color by how many different zones you enter times the zone where you have the most shapes that you've encountered, most stops you've created. So if in one zone I went to 4 different stations and overall I went to 3 zones, then it's 4 times 3 for 12 points for that color. And so you're doing that for all the different colors. You're flipping over a card. It's telling you which shape you're allowed to connect to from one of your starting and ending points, and you're having to try to create lines that are going to leave enough room open for the next color that you're using so you don't block yourself into a tough situation. It makes more sense to you when you play it. It's a very simple game to teach, but in terms of the overall general rules, but the nuances take a bit. I would say to get ready to play a couple games before you fully wrap your head around it and understand it. But it is really good. I'm addicted to it, and it's really heartening for me to now play Next Station Tokyo, see how different it is and how it's hooking me in a different way. So I just think the Next Station line in general, I'm really excited to continue to play, but Next Station London is the one I played the most of, and it is such a great experience. Definitely check it out. That is my number 5 favorite game I played last month. Number 4, this is one that is actually, I only play, and so there's a reason I've only played this on Board Game Arena, and that's because it's not out yet. You can't play it anywhere else, and it's already off Board Game Arena, so as I'm saying this, you can't even go play it because it was a temporary inclusion on Board Game Arena for promotional purposes. And this is a new trading card game called Altered. So Altered, I'm always going to be interested in card games because I grew up playing Magic the Gathering, Carlo and I did, and I played I played Pokemon too, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a little bit when I was younger, I played Hearthstone digitally, we played Keyforge, we were big fans of card games. And so Altered caught my attention because I was seeing ads for it everywhere, and the artwork was really striking and kind of had that League of Legends type feel to it, but really well done. And it was a new TCG that was doing some unique things with scanning barcodes on cards for your digital collection, then being able to print cards on demand. just some really neat things, but it was also really interesting because it's a game, like Keyforge, it's a card game where you're not trying to just dwindle your opponent's health to zero. We've seen that lots. It's interesting to me when card games try to create a card game that doesn't encompass just diminishing your opponent's HP. So this was temporarily on Board Game Arena to test out for their Kickstarter campaign. So I did get to play it. It's convinced me to back it. It is really, really fun and interesting. I can see the depth that it could have as more sets come out and you get to start building your own decks and not just use the starter decks. But essentially, you are going to have a hero that you pick. So you have a 40 card deck. One of those cards is your hero card, which is always going to be in play. And then the other 39 cards are either going to be what you got from the starter deck, or you're going to deck build and build within certain restrictions. You are going to have a hero token on one side of this map and a companion token on the other side of the map. And both players are going to start with a token on either side. Whoever gets their tokens to meet up first wins the game. And you don't have to meet up in the middle. You could move one token the entire time, move to the other side. Wherever they meet up, as soon as that happens, that triggers the end of the game. You either win, or if both players reach at the same time, you go into this cool tiebreaker called the arena, which is really neat. And you are playing cards to try to influence how much you have in these 3 different symbols that appear on cards. So every card that you're playing, character card that you're playing, can have certain power in one of 3 different colors, and they correspond to different terrain types. It's like mountain, water, and grass, I believe. And so as long as you are beating your opponent in one of those terrains for the terrain you're on, if you beat them in at least one, you get to move your token at the end of the round to the next spot. You're playing cards, you're strategically trying to like move tokens back to try to beat them in different terrain. It's hard to fully explain the rules in a quick video like this. All to say that it is a really fun game to play, and it's really quick. And I love the idea of a quick play, like tactical card game where I can deck build, when I can get through games really quickly. It's one of the things, actually, the knocks I had on Keyforge is, as much as I love Keyforge, I've had games of Keyforge take like 40 to 45 minutes. This is much quicker, especially when you got the rules down. Like I played a pretty quick game for the first game I ever played, where I'm still understanding the rules. When you fully know the rules, you're not having to do any explanation or any clarifications. This will play really quick, and it's addictive, and it's fun, and the deck building seems like it's going to be really engaging and fun to try to figure things out. You can flip in different heroes, so it's not just it's not like with Magic for the Gathering, for instance, you're just picking a deck based on which combination of colors am I doing, or am I doing a solo white deck or solo red deck. This one has factions, like Magic has colors, but you have to pick a hero of that faction as well to sort of be the hero that's always going to be in play, and that's going to affect your strategy. So there's a few different things that will affect deck building aside from the 39 cards you're building. I'm super excited about this game. It's called Altered. You can check out a bunch of stuff on it online right now for the Kickstarter campaign in case you want to back it, and I believe it delivers in July. If you do back it, I think it's August for retail. So we will get to play a bunch more of it this year. Really excited to do the deck building aspect of it and kind of see how deep I want to go into the Altered rabbit hole. But so far, very pumped about it, very excited. All right, number 3 is a game that is not new. This is an old game that I am really late to the party on. Carlo owns a copy of this. We just hadn't played it in a while, but finally did get it to the table actually playing with Dave from Victory Pints, which, if you don't know, Victory Pints sponsors our channel. They're a local board game store here in Winnipeg. You should definitely go there because Dave is awesome and the store is great. And we played Through the Desert, and it was so good. So this is a Reiner Knizia game that is kind of, there's not a lot to it, but it's really deep. Like, it's one of those simple playing games that just has a lot of deep strategy, and I want to keep coming back to get good at it. So then, whoever I'm playing with, we've all played a bunch, we can get really kind of, friendly, competitive with it and have a good time. So you have these camels that come in one of 4 different colors, and you're having to place next to, I think you all start the game by placing 2 of each color, 1 of each color onto the board, and you're trying to create connections of the same color across the board to grab point tokens, to build near to oases, and create close off sections where so if you close off a bunch of tokens in one section, you can get all the tokens in them. There's a few different ways to score points. I won't get into all the rules here, but it's very simple in the way it plays, but really addictive. It kind of has a bit of like a Blue Lagoon-y type feel, Blue Lagoon-ish type feel to it, without all the different scoring conditions, way more slimmed down. It reminds me of Fjords in some way. It's that kind of simple playing game, but it's very addictive for me. There's a reason I love Fjords, there's a reason I love Blue Lagoon. This scratches that same itch, and I really want to get my hands on the reprint that I missed the campaign for, because it'll be probably easier to track down than the old version. But one way or another, I want to have this in my collection because it's one I really love and I want to play more of. Late to the party, finally did play it. My number 3 favorite game I played last month. All right, number 2. I have the physical version of this one here. Played this recently for the first time. This is also an old game. I believe this is 95, 96, one of the two. And it is another Reiner Knizia game. And it is not modern art, but it is classic art. This is a deceptively simple game that has a lot of depth to it, which is like Reiner Knizia special right there. So you're going to have this board that is separated into 5 different art exhibitions, of each one being a different color. Everyone's going to have a hand of cards, and all you're doing in your turn is you're playing 2 cards in your hand, and they go into the exhibition matching that color. You have the art on loan cards, which is the one way the cards can deviate. So if you play a red card, but it's an art on loan card, instead of playing that to the area, you're saying, I'm playing a red art on loan card. You discard it, and you also discard another card that's there already. If there was no cards there, you keep the art on loan card there, and the next card that's played there gets discarded along with the art on loan card. So besides that, you're just playing cards to different areas. The way that you're scoring points in the essence of the game is you're betting on how many are going to end up in each of the exhibitions at the end. And so you have a certain limited tokens that you can bet. You don't have to bet on everything. You don't have to use all your tokens every round. But you have to figure out if I'm going to bet on, do I think there's going to be 4 or more? Or 4 or less? Do I think there's going to be 5 or more? Do I think there's going to be 1 or less? The more precise bets are going to earn you more points, but they're more risky because people can start to influence how many paintings, for instance, enter a certain exhibition to try to make it so you don't get your correct bid. You just keep doing that constantly, and there's in each of the 5 different colors, as soon as at least one person has crossed 5 points in each of the colors, that triggers the end of the game, and whoever has the most points wins. There's some other nuances I won't get into in terms of you can double your bets, you can triple your bets in different ways, in terms of what you get in return for them, and the way that you get back some of your betting tokens is really interesting and incentivizes you to just be more risky at certain points of the game and then play more safe in other points. I won't get into all those details, but I was pleasantly surprised by classic art. I shouldn't be, because I shouldn't be surprised by any Reiner Knizia game, because I always seem to like his board games. But it is just such a thinky, fun, addictive game that had us all laughing around the table because of, we were all learning it for the first time, and we played at a board game convention, and it was just tons and tons of fun. I got trounced. Our friend Jake completely destroyed all of us, and I still left with it being the number 2 game I played last month. Love classic art. I'm going to be playing a whole bunch more of it, and we'll see over time if my opinion changes of it. But right now, loving this game. All right, number 1, my favorite game I played last month. I don't have it here. Braden owns this. I'm trying to get my own copy because this is more than almost any game right now. It's the one I want in my collection the most because I know it'll get a ton of play out of it. That is Lacuna. Lacuna, you might have heard about. It is a really, really unique game that comes in a cylinder that you are going to put out this cloth game board, and then the actual game game box itself, the cylinder, is going to be full of these wooden tokens, and you're going to randomly shake it out over the board, distribute them randomly, kind of separate them if they're too close to each other, and then the entire game is, I believe it's taking 5 turns or 6 turns. I can't remember now how many of those your tokens you have, but you're placing one of your tokens between 2 wooden tiles of the same color. It doesn't matter how far or close they are. You just have to find 2 that are anywhere on the board, and as long as there's nothing blocking them, as long as there's a clear path between them, you can place your token between them at any point. It doesn't have to be in the middle. It could be like closer to one token, closer to the other token, but you take the 2 tokens after you've placed your player token. You take the 2 wooden tokens, and there are 7 different colors, and you are trying to get the majority of the colors where you own the most. So if I want to have the most blue, the most purple, whatever, I want to have the most of 4 of the colors. Whoever has the most, that majority wins the game. You're not just getting colored tokens by when you place. At the end of the game, whichever colored wooden tokens that are left on the board that you're closest to one of your player tokens, you're going to take as well. So you have to also start to figure out, am I closer, if I'm playing with Carlo, am I closer than Carlo to enough of this color that I can get the majority? And if I'm not, am I going to try to place other ones to get closer? It comes with a ruler, so you can start to measure when things get a little too close to be able to eyeball and see just for face value. It's really strategic. It's really beautiful on the table. It gets a lot of attention just from playing it, and it is just so quick playing. It's one of those games you want to play like best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, and just keep coming back to. I am loving it, and I'm addicted to Lacuna. I want this in my collection. I could see myself playing this with. It's a 2-player only game, but I could see myself playing at 2 players very often with lots of different people. It's just so easy to teach, and you don't have to be like really a tactical or strategic person to be able to play this game well. I think after playing it like once or twice, you can start to grasp the strategy of it really quickly, and it'll make you feel, it's one of those games that makes you feel smarter than you are in many cases because of how crafty you can get with where you're placing things. So I love this game. I'm gonna definitely get it soon, and I'm gonna have a lot more to say about it when I do. That is Lacuna. If you can track it down, I would highly recommend getting it. I almost guarantee you will like this game if you like two-player games, especially ones that play quick and have a lot of tactical decision making. Lacuna, my number 1. Those are the top 10 games I picked. There are a lot I wanted to include. I wanted to limit it to a 10. I won't go through them all, but I played a lot of Lost Cities last month, and that could have made the list. I played a game called Far Away that is really, really good. It barely missed the list. Oh man, there's so many. I played a lot of really good games that I just didn't include, but these are the 10 that I decided to land on that were my favorite in January. Let me know what games that you played in January that you really, really loved. What are the best games you played last month? I'm gonna try to do these, if not every month, every couple months, depending on how many games I played. I'm not gonna do it if I find that it's like I played the same games as I did the previous month. I don't want it to just be like, oh, I'm talking about Lacuna again. I'm talking about Knarr again. Like in some cases, I want to talk about them again to see if my opinion on them is changing as we go, but I want there to be enough variety. So I'm not saying we'll see these videos every month for me, but I'll try to do them as often as I can, especially because I'm playing a lot of board games right now. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you've been playing. We'll see you next time.